There are distinctive characteristics of addictive love versus healthy love. Much of the following is paraphrased from the work of Brenda Schaefer, who wrote a tremendous book entitled Is It Love or Addiction? The characteristics of addictive love are that the partners tend to feel consumed. They are consumed with their own neediness, consumed with the idea of the other. That doesn't necessarily occur on a day-to-day basis. Often a person will feel that desperation with the loved object only when there's a threatened breakup. Addicted lovers cannot define ego boundaries. Ego boundaries are where one person ends off and the other one begins. Often partners talk in the plural. We believe this or we believe that, and the other partner might not believe it at all. But it's almost inconceivable to a partner in an addictive relationship to view the other person as being separate and having his or her own opinion. In fact, this is often looked at as a threat to the relationship itself. An addictive couple exhibits sadomasochism, and this does not mean whips and chains, although certainly that can be a part of it and sometimes is. Most often what is seen is one person being in the one-up position and the other person is in the one-down. One specializes in taking in the relationship while the other specializes in giving. These relationships tend to be not only desperate, but also very stereotypic and rigid. They limit individuals. There's a tendency to fear letting go and allowing oneself to feel free in the relationship. There is a stilted feeling and too much anxiety in these relationships. Often, the partners fear risk, change, and the unknown for themselves individually and also for the partnership itself. They experience little individual growth. If they observe the other partner growing, for example, going back to school, it is looked at as a direct threat, which points out how crazy these relationships can get. If a person really loves somebody, they're going to want the very best for that person. Also, there should be a realization that if the other person does well, the other partner will ultimately share in any benefit. People in addictive relationships do not experience true intimacy. True intimacy consists of viewing the other person as separate and valuable in their own right. It is not needing, but wanting, and loving in an intellectual, spiritual, emotional, and physical way, and seeing that person as a unique other. Addictive relationships are the exact opposite of Martin Buber's model of an I-thou relationship. The partners play psychological and power games. They take the mommy or the daddy or the child role, which is again stilted and stereotypic. Very often, there's a giving in the relationship only in order to get something back. These relationships often keep score. They do a lot of bartering. It is not free and easy loving. One often attempts to change the other. Most people would look at the need for communication skills as an understandable, normal, and essential part of the relationship. To ask a partner to learn communication skills is a perfectly legitimate request. Hopefully they will want to, but if they don't, that other partner must realize that they don't have a right to expect it, and they shouldn't try and coerce their partner into making the change or really any change that they want. They might have to leave the relationship if the partner doesn't want to improve in this area, but not use this as a manipulative ploy. Love addicts need the other to feel complete. If they have a problem, they look to the other person and seek solutions to their problems outside of the self. They look to the partner to fix it rather than realizing that it might be an individual issue and that they can often fix it themselves. Addicted lovers demand and expect unconditional love. And unconditional love in this example is parental love. As a child, people can expect their parent will love them, no matter how monstrously they act. But in a mature, healthy relationship, one cannot expect that. They certainly could expect some tolerance, but there are limits. Within these immature relationships, partners refuse to commit fully. There's a holding back, either emotionally or physically. They look to the other for affirmation and worth instead of looking towards themselves. They fear abandonment when separated, but this abandonment feeling might only show itself when there is a danger of the relationship breaking up entirely. They tend to recreate old negative feelings from early childhood traumas. One can see the same melodramatic drama that happened to them as children occur again in their adult relationships. It is not uncommon to see a person marry 3 alcoholic mates before she finally resolves her own individual issues and finds somebody who is not alcoholic. It is no coincidence that her father was alcoholic and she had radar for that type of partner. It's a blind spot. A person with this issue will actively go out and try to find somebody who doesn't drink, yet invariably find somebody who drinks way too much. These people desire yet fear closeness. They want it and don't want it. There is a real ambivalence with these kinds of relationships. The addicted person attempts to take care of the other person's feelings, which is codependence, rather than just taking care of their own feelings and helping when it's appropriate. They play power games, one up and one down, giver and taker. These relationships are desperate. They are histrionic and melodramatic, and they are about self-love. They are not about the action of love. Rather, they are about the feeling of being in love. They are not calm and full. Calm and full is a characteristic of a healthy relationship. And the characteristics for healthy relationships are almost exactly the opposite of the addictive ones. The first characteristic of a healthy relationship is that partners allow for individuality. They don't need the other person to believe or see things in the same ways that they do. They experience both oneness with and separateness from their partner with equanimity. Their experience of love is not desperate. They bring out the best qualities in their partner and the best qualities in themselves. One of the misconceptions that I often hear is that for any relationship to work, the participants have to really struggle and they have to work at it. And I think that is absolutely false. A good relationship occurs when 2 strong individual people come together and are able to blend and be separate at the same time in an effortless way. Unhealthy relationships are a lot like taking a square peg and attempting to make it fit into a round hole. Addictive relationships just don't fit, and people work and work on the other person in a forlorn attempt to make them fit. A relationship should be easy because the blending is fairly effortless with 2 individuated people who really fit together. Each person will therefore bring out the best qualities in their partners. However, sometimes relationships end for a myriad of reasons. People grow at different rates. It is extremely difficult for people who met at a young age to stay together and grow at the same rate throughout a lifetime, and then die together on the same day. Very often, people come together for a certain amount of time when it's appropriate for them. It would be nice, and certainly is the goal, to be able to stay with one person for a lifetime. That takes effort in the sense that a relationship needs tending like a garden. With our disposable culture, when it's no longer exciting every moment, people are likely to end the relationship prematurely. all relationships tend to go through some periods of less active involvement and intimacy. Many people don't put in the energy to jumpstart the relationship. Most relationships need a periodic infusion of new energy, and most can be rejuvenated. Unfortunately, if you allow the intimacy in the relationship to dwindle too much, no amount of energy is going to revitalize it. Relationships that are healthy accept endings if appropriate, and the participants don't feel as if they're going to die without the other. Healthy partners experience openness to change and exploration, both as a couple and as individuals. With addictive relationships, it becomes you and me against the world. The relationship shrinks to just those two people. Ideal relationships invite growth in the other partner, and they really enjoy the other partner doing well. They experience true intimacy, intellectually, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. They feel the freedom to ask honestly for what is wanted, and they can handle it if they don't get what they want all the time. They experience giving and receiving in the same way. They enjoy both, and there isn't scorekeeping or bartering. They do, though, keep a vague sense of when the relationship is becoming a little bit skewed or out of balance. They will ask themselves, have I been getting my way a little too much? Well, I'll focus a bit more on my partner and try to even it up. Healthy partners don't attempt to change or control the other person. They encourage self-sufficiency of both the partner and of themselves. They accept the limitations of the self and the partner and know that one person can't be totally enough for anyone. They realize that they have to get most of their needs met themselves and some of their needs met by friends or family. They do not seek unconditional love or parental love. They accept commitment. They each have a high sense of self-esteem, which is crucial. They trust the memory of the beloved, and they enjoy solitude. They express feelings spontaneously. They care with detachment and are not codependent. They welcome closeness, they risk vulnerability, and they affirm the equality and personal power of both themselves and their partner, which is incredibly important. Pia Mellody wrote about the 4 stages of an addictive relationship. And the first stage is denial and fantasy, which is the fantasy that our parental needs can finally be met by someone in our present. She describes the second stage as the awareness that things aren't going well, which increases the pain that is felt in the relationship. The person begins to realize on a deep level that their partner can't fix their internal dependence. The third stage is the fight for control, to see if there's some way that the feelings of dependence can be relieved despite the reality and self-knowledge. The fourth is separation. This is either physical or emotional separation, or both. Often, people who come to marital therapy are not very far along in their individuation process. Because of this, they often just spin with a repetition compulsion and blame their partner. It is then necessary to first treat the individual problems before the marital problems. Some couples have to separate or divorce before they're able to do the individual work, and marriage counseling fails. But sometimes each partner allows themselves to pull back and detach and start to realize that the problems are more about them than the other person. They allow themselves to create a little bit more distance in the relationship until their individual work is done, so that they can come together and reconnect in a truly healthier manner. These are the relationships that are able to grow, develop, and mature. Sometimes, however, if the main reason the couple got involved in the first place were dependency issues. They realize at the end of therapy that they are not a good fit, even if both of them have now developed a large amount of individuality and maturity. Too many relationships are parent-child relationships, either mother-son or father-daughter. To have a really good relationship, what is needed is balance, and the balance should consist of mainly partners and lovers, as if looking at two large concentric circles. A smaller circle of mother-son, a small circle of father-daughter, and a small circle of siblings is also healthy and normal. Unfortunately, that is not the type of balance usually seen, and that's the reason why there is so much divorce and pain experienced in most of our relationships.